Welcome. Let's go ahead and get started. So thank you for those of you who came back and for those of you who are joining new. So what we're going to do today is, in this class, I like to do a little bit of a mix of just talking about things that are happening on the planet, any questions, anything that's going on with you that you want to explore. I'll talk a little bit about my journey for those of you who have heard that before. I apologize, but when there's new people here, I like to include some of that. And then we'll do a live channeling portion. So I will channel in guides that are best suited for this room and beyond because we filmed today. And we'll have a general message. If you've been following my channeling, I don't know how many of you have, it seems to be going in a very specific order. We're just building on each message every month. And I already feel like the one that's coming in this month is going to be a continuation of what we've been talking about. And then I'll take questions. So we write those down, and Ethan helps me with that so we get them on the camera just so everyone can hear the question. And questions are open to whatever you're experiencing in your life, whatever you're curious about. We just try to phrase that in a way that's very universal so that everyone will benefit and it's not so personal and specific to you. Okay? So we're in the midst of some pretty interesting energies. I feel like we've just gotten through a really major transition or wave where a lot of us are on the other side creating some new timelines in our lives. And it seems to me like we're going through this over and over and over again. And sometimes we get on the other side of it and we think, wow, I just went through that whole shift of, awakening, changed all these things in my life. And now we're going to do this all over again. What the heck, right? And it's interesting because as we continue to go through this, I feel like the reason that we are is that, of course, we know we're here as creators. We're here as a collective energy body of a one human consciousness. A lot of that got torn apart and taken outside of our conscious awareness, and we're really putting it back together. And I feel like these planetary energies are helping us bring a lot of information to the surface. So we're going to continue to go through these little spiritual awakenings, throughout our life that opens the door to new opportunities, new available energies to create new information. And for me, I've had some very dramatic ones in my life, but especially the one that brought me here to this stage that I'm in, where I have become a channel in the world, which, of course, was not at all my intention. So I'll just share a little bit about my journey, what I channel. Everyone knows what channeling is that's here, I assume. And we will just explore what that process is together and talk a little bit about what's going on the planet. So for me, this journey started about 7 years ago, I guess, with a journey through chronic pain, struggle through chronic pain, total mainstream life, mainstream world, did not even know what channeling was, had no spiritual intentions, nor did I know what any of this conversation was. I grew up in a very middle-class family and went to college, got a marketing degree, got married, had 2 kids, left my career behind, which was extremely successful. I'm the oldest of 3 children, so I do everything A-type, and was very successful in my career. Had my first child and decided to just drop the briefcase for the baby bag and stay at home. And really took off in that area. Everything I did in my career, I took to the home. So I made the gourmet dinners. I was a chronic volunteer. I took on everything under the sun that had to do with my children. And I believe that the universe not only has a record, but we have a record as well. And it's tying together in such a beautiful way that we get these signals along the path. It's almost like helping hands that are giving us messages. And if we don't grab onto those hands or acknowledge those messages, that record is going to collide in something really big in our lives. And the constant theme in a lot of my channelings lately has been chaos. And chaos is such a scary word, but the guides have been talking about this really beautifully, that all chaos is when we have not acknowledged along the way those little steps we need to take, that the whole universe comes in to support us. So all of those hands just lift us up and carry us into a new experience. Now, we don't typically like that because we don't like change. And it's very unknown. Things that we were used to, that were anchors in our life, start to drop away. Mine came with pain. So with the birth of my second child, I started to experience some very dramatic chronic pain in my leg, hip, and lower back. And was on that, doctor train Western medicine, prescriptions, MRIs, CT scans, x-rays, the whole bit. Every year getting worse, 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 worse. And I had gotten so bad, it was, I guess it was probably around 2012, 2012. I had started having my nerves ablated, my nerves severed. I started going to a pain clinic. I was on anti-inflammatories, anti-pain meds, antidepressants. I was washing it down with alcohol every night, starting at 5 o'clock while I was making dinner. I was 40 years old. And as a part of this chaotic time in my life, my family decided to make a move. And that was my last straw where I thought, no, this is such a supportive place for me to be. I knew this place very well. All of my neighbors, all of my friends in that area supported me, and they knew of my condition. They'd come in and they'd help me, grocery shop with the kids, whatever I needed. And so found myself on the other side of town in a new neighborhood, new house, in chronic pain, 40 years old, and didn't have any support around me at all. As a matter of fact, I couldn't make anything work to save my life. I was this large and in charge volunteer in this world of the PTA and church and the neighborhood and all of that stuff, and tried to make that work, but the universe wouldn't let it happen. It just wouldn't. I just kept hitting roadblocks everywhere I turned. And so I really had to take a hard look at myself, and I knew something had to change. And I think that it's such an interesting conspiring of the universe, and this is something I've really begun to notice, is that we really have this narrow focus in our lives of events and timelines and how things are meant to happen, and we kind of put it in this bubble. And until I got to the other side of the chaos, did I not see how the universe supported me in these little teeny tiny ways. So the house that I moved into had a reverse osmosis filter in the basement that was filtering the fluoride out of my water. Now, at that time in my life, knew nothing about fluoride and how that was preventing me from connecting. But I really think that was a critical piece of the puzzle that allowed me to see the little signs and synchronicities that were coming into my life and actually hold on to them and use them as a tool. And one of those tools was meditation. So I found myself surrounded by opportunities to explore Eastern philosophy, which I knew nothing about. Never had been in that world before. And so meditation was something that I decided to explore and started to do it very religiously. I had learned that it could disconnect me from pain. And I'm thinking, hey, I've tried everything else, right? This is worth a shot. So I took all my A-type personality, made out a schedule, started meditating regularly every single day, 3 times a day, morning, afternoon, and evening, and noticed some interesting things happening that I couldn't really wrap my brain around. I was starting to hear things in meditation. And I thought, wow, I'm really bad at this. I'm not supposed to have any thought process going on. So I just kind of ignored what was coming in. Now, I did notice that my stress levels, especially, were going down. And as my stress was going down, my pain was kind of, going down, resolving itself as well. But what I didn't notice again was all of the other things that were coming into my life because my vibration was changing. And I so believe in meditation for this reason, because if you're a chronic meditator, you're shifting your vibration and your awareness will change from whatever state you are in to another plane of reality. You carry that with you. As a matter of fact, I just saw a really interesting interview about the way our thoughts and our meditative state affects the entire consciousness of the planet. So this is another reason we should really be going inward and doing that work. But what I found was I ended up on this beautiful path where I just got the exact right practitioner with the exact right expertise. I got a diagnosis, which was that my hip joint, my left hip joint is basically obliterated. Don't know how it happened. Don't know if I came into this life that way or if childbirth was the catalyst for that, which it could have been. There's no way to fix that. But I ended up on the other side of this completely healed. And the reason for that was, I believe, I had this beautiful connection that was brewing. So I started to tune into the words that I was getting. And at this time, it was, a couple words, a couple sentences, names. But I began to notice as I was walking outside of my meditation that I was connecting to information from other people. And I would have a casual conversation with somebody and realize that I was hearing things that they were not saying. Just basic acquaintances in the grocery store telling me really personal things in my mind that I would get into the car and scratch my head and go, I didn't even respond to them. They said something so personal to me and I didn't respond to them. And how rude is that, you know? So all of this culminated in one event, which I'll share really quickly. It was my awakening to spirit, and it sent me on this journey. I was making a Christmas dinner for family. I had bought all the ingredients, I thought, to make a very special beef tenderloin recipe. Got up that morning, went to the pantry, just ready to pull everything out, and recognized that I did not purchase everything I needed. There were actually 3 ingredients I was missing. And they were special ingredients I didn't normally keep in the house, so I thought, no problem, I can mock this thing up. Got on a stool, started pushing stuff around, and didn't find anything remotely close to what I needed. So my practice at that time was stress equals pain, stress equals meditation. Mom's got to go in her bedroom. I'm closing the door. Everybody just chill out for a little bit. And I went into my bedroom, closed the door, went into a very deep meditation that day. And I heard 3 words in a very loud male voice, as if in the room with me. And those words were, I am Jacob. And it really shook me. I thought, oh my gosh, you know, I actually opened my eyes and looked around the room, and I couldn't communicate back. I tried really hard, you know, both in my mind and outside to communicate with this Jacob, but I didn't get anywhere. But I kind of didn't care. I just felt this beautiful, buzzy, peaceful, light energy around me. I was in a state of bliss, and I thought, wow, I don't know what that was about. But me being stressed about Christmas dinner is absolutely ridiculous. Let's just get back out there and get everything together. And so I opened the pantry, went back out the kitchen, and there on the shelf in a very neat row, lined up at eye level, in sealed containers, were the 3 ingredients that I needed for this recipe. And so I was kind of in a state of shock, but at the same time, I had been dabbling in law of attraction. And I was studying Esther Hicks at the time, which I don't know if all of you know who she is, but what's funny is I loved her books, but I didn't believe in the fact that she was channeling. I thought, you know, this law of attraction stuff's great, but yeah, I don't know if Esther's really channeling or what that really means. But I thought, wow, this is just great. Manifested this, made the dinner, put it out of my mind for a good year, and just went about my life. But I became a big time closet researcher because I wanted to know, who is this Jacob? What was happening to me? How did I do that? What was I hearing from people? And so I began to explore. And I called myself clairaudient for a really long time because I would hear. And I learned a lot through books and lectures and things about clairaudience. And as I'm going into meditation, I'm going deeper and deeper into trance because I'm practicing that so much that I'm getting more and more information. And I was starting to write it down because it was so unique. It was things that I wouldn't typically think about or say. There were names. And then it got to the point where there was so much coming through that I couldn't write it down anymore because I couldn't remember. So I thought, let me just get my iPhone out and hit record, and I'll say what I hear. And then I was blown away because I heard my voice change. You know, if there was a female guide that was present, my voice would get very high. If there was a male guide present, my voice would get very low. I would speak differently than what I would typically speak. I was talking about things that I really didn't think about or know about. And I started to have experiences with extraterrestrials. Now, mind you, I'm still this PTA mom going through this transition, and this is not something I'm ready to talk about, right, at the local fundraiser. And I didn't have anyone in my life that was talking about this either. So I was really, you know, stuck in my room kind of going through this weird experience. I began to have very lucid experiences with interdimensional beings. I still do today. I believe that really changed my vibration for the better. I have connected with Pleiadians in that way. I have had experiences with light ships, not visceral and physical like a lot of people do that you hear about, but very lucid states of, you know, meditation or in rest states. I've had downloads. I've had some really incredible experiences through that time. And what happened to me was I healed myself 100% now pain-free, in probably the best shape of my life than I've ever been. I I heard very early on that I had a mission here. And I was told that my mission was to be a channel, and that they showed me channeling in front of audiences and bringing messages through about the earth transition, and that I was here to assist light workers through a very difficult time on the planet. I was like, wow, that's great, but that's not at all what I'm here to do. Can't see myself ever doing that. I didn't want to do it. I was actually really angry for a long time. I kind of fought with my guides. You know, they would come in and tell me this stuff. I'm like, you know, that's not going to happen. I can't do that. You know, I could not picture myself at that time in my life being that person. But the same way that I healed myself of chronic pain, the door opened for me to transition to where I am today. And I manifested the people, the places, the resources around me to support me that I didn't have. You know, I was raised Catholic. You know, my family doesn't talk about this, but I manifested a different kind of family that I needed to support me in my work, and Flower of Life and all these, you know, beautiful people. And, you know, I look back on that time and I'm so grateful. What I found out was Jacob was a past life experience for me. He was a young boy, and I was someone that cared for him. He was lost and left behind. And I took him in, I cared for him and clothed him and fed him. And he came back in this life through a soul agreement to help me remember this agreement that I made collectively to do this work. And so I'm forever indebted to him, but I always thought he'd be here. You know, he was kind of at my side. He was at one I would ask questions of. And one day, very surprisingly, he came in and said, you know, his work with me was done. And by that time, I had already started connecting with more and more guides. So I connect with a variety of collectives today. Jeremiah, the collective Jeremiah, is a very big collective consciousness that works with me. There's a variety of different beings that step forth from that collective. St. Thomas of Aquinas is one, Jeremiah, Josiah. I had a lot of questions about that early on that I asked about, you know, why? Is this the biblical Jeremiah? Are you the prophet? Why would you speak through me? And I got a lot of answers that I didn't expect. He was someone that was here on the planet doing very similar things to what light workers are doing now. He received a message from God when he was very young, and he was sent out into the world to share this message, which was not a very popular one. And he had a very difficult journey. And he said, my journey is very, you know, symbolic of what light workers are going through in this time. And he had messages to share through me. But again, I also had the extraterrestrial connection. Did not believe in them until I started connecting with them myself. And wasn't at all a part of that conversation. But I now connect with Pleiadians. I believe I have a very strong DNA genetic connection with the Pleiadian collective. I've actually met my Pleiadian parents in lucid state. They come to me quite often. I connect with Lemurians, Atlanteans, Arcturians, Dolphin Matrix, the Ancients, which are a group of ancient Mayan beings, native beings. So there's many, many. Archangels. I had a very strong connection with archangels and still do. I do private sessions, so I'm very open. So when I do a session with someone one-on-one, we're just calling in whoever's here for them. So their guides will come in, and there'll be many that we speak to and we receive from. So I'm very blessed and grateful. I think that we all have something within us, in our record, that is here to be a piece of the puzzle, right? And what's interesting about that is it's not stagnant. You know, when I first started to do this, I tend to, you tend to put it in a box. Okay, this is who I am, this is what I'm supposed to do. And then all of a sudden that chaos ensues again. And you realize it always has to change. You know, we're vibrational beings. Our record is vibrational. We're responding to planetary energies all of the time. So we have to be open to rolling with that. And we are free will source energy in a bodysuit. So we get to choose. You know, our record has these vibrational, I will say, announcements. And we get to choose the way we want to express them for our greatest fulfillment and our greatest joy. And that's amazing to me, because when we do that, when we're in that state of self-fulfillment, personal fulfillment, we're serving. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many people we connect to or, you know, what we're doing. When we're in that state, we're affecting all other things. And I truly believe this is how the planet is going to heal. how we're going to end up on the other side of where we are today and what we've created today is when everybody is in alignment with their internal, their source energy, their record, their vibrational self. And we're already seeing that happen. Any questions, anything anyone wants to discuss, share about that? Okay. So there's a lot going on lately that I want to bring in because this has been coming up in the last couple of weeks. So this has been pretty recent. There's been a lot of discussion about the Schumann resonance, and there's been a lot of discussion about high intense emotions. Everyone's been pretty emotional. That chaos we've been talking about, it feels like it's just been bubbling to the surface. And we know the last several months we've been going through a lot of planetary shifts. We've had all these retrogrades, and we've had to go into this space where we're pulling up. And that's what I think this time's really about. If I go back probably about 4 or 5 months, the guides that I work with were talking about intense lunar frequencies. We had this period where we went through all these solar activities back at the end of 2016, really throughout the whole year 2016, and we still have that going on, really intense solar activity. But the guides are saying the lunar energies were really coming to support all this new information that the solar energies were going to shake up in us. And what I've come to realize is we're integrating a lot of lost soul pieces. So we have all these timelines running. And just to review, timeline energy is anything that you're in awareness with in the moment. So you go to work, that's timeline. You come home, you've got family, that's timeline. You've got a group of friends you bowl with on Saturday night, that's timeline. Okay, those are all separate timeline energies. But we don't realize that our soul is fragmented into many other dimensional experiences as well. And that's always been a part of who we are. So we're familiar with our earth experience. We know, okay, I've been here before, I've done things on the earth, and some of those things are still present within my DNA and they affect me. They affect my perception, sometimes my fears, the way I operate here, who I am creatively. But we're really beginning to now plug in to more of that information. And we've looked at it kind of negatively, don't you think? You know, a lot of healers or teachers have been operating in, let's clear that. Let's get rid of that nasty stuff, the bad experiences, the stuff that you don't want to associate with. Well, I feel like this time in particular that we're going through has a lot to do with activating. And it's because of our consciousness. It's really because our consciousness has shifted to the point where we can now look at things differently. And it's really our choice. We're creating it all. Okay, so when we look at something like the Schumann resonance, for example, we think, oh, the earth is doing something to us. But really, that Schumann resonance is equal to all things vibrating together. So we affect it and it affects us. You know, we are both the amplifier and the receiver of it. It's not just about Mother Earth Gaia, who I believe with all of my heart and soul is a living, breathing entity. It's about us being connected to that living, breathing entity and what we contribute that results in that Schumann resonance. It's planetary shifts, it's our record, it's her, and it's us. So we are both the cause and the effect of what's going on here. So we're ready now to activate new information. So when we have these timelines that have this difficult stuff in it, there's a reason that it's there. It's not that we're meant to take it away. Sometimes we just want to push it away. We don't want to experience the negative stuff, but we're here to use those timeline energies to really shift ourselves. Our soul experience benefits from them, as well as our planetary energy benefits from them. So that's why I feel we've been so emotional lately, is we're tuning into more of that information. But we're supposed to tune into it and activate ourselves through it to move forward and to really create new timelines. And so I got this beautiful message the other day. If some of you follow me on Facebook, I posted it. It was from Archangel Gabriel, and it was all about chaos and these helping hands coming together to hold us up when we have chaos going on. But really what's happened when chaos ensues, You've already conspired with the universe to shift your timeline. Everything is just falling away and moving outward. You're bringing up all the emotion, you're clearing it in order to see. Think of it as clearing the space, clearing the path, clearing the dead energy, so that you can see clearly what these timelines have caused in you, or what you're meant to see in them that helps you, that brings you to more information, that helps you to create. So I really feel like, even though we've been suffering a little bit, right, and everyone wants to blame it on one thing or another, it's ascension symptoms, or it's karma. And I've asked a lot about this, and I've had a lot of questions during session about it, and the guides are constantly saying, you cannot blame that on one thing. Really, when we have this stuff coming up, what we tend to do is we want to look outward for the solution, and we want to blame it on something. Oh, it's ascension symptoms, and I'm too much of an empath, and you really are just supposed to listen to it. You're supposed to be present with it. You're supposed to integrate it, right? So instead of trying to figure it out, be with it. Listen to it, feel it, understand what it's here to teach you. Compare it to what's going on in your physical reality. Sometimes we have emotional spikes and we don't feel that it matches who we are in the moment. And that's when we have to pause and go, okay, I just have to listen to my body and let this go through. And maybe I need to rest a little more, or, maybe there's just something in me that needs to express, or it could be something that really relates dramatically to who we are in the moment. And we're supposed to, be with that and really use that information to make those decisions. So I've had some client sessions lately. People are coming to me, they just feel like they're jumping out of their skin. And the reason for that is they now know they're going somewhere new. They know they're creating something new, but they don't see it manifesting yet. They don't see it in physical. And I equate this both to our physical, personal experience, our soul experience, and collective. We know collectively we've shaken so much up here. We have no idea what's going to come on the other side of it. We really have to trust. That's where the guides are coming in and saying, where's your trust? Where's your faith? Right? Everything that's going on right now is in divine order. We have to shake it up. We have to clear it in order to create something new. Because if we don't, we just stay stagnant. And we don't want that. We decided to come into these bodysuits as vibrational beings to evolve. That means we're always changing. We're always going to change. There's always going to be chaos. There's always going to be new things that we're presented with. And it's beautiful when we see that. And it's not always easy, right? But I really truly believe this is the space that we are in. So the advice that's coming through about that jumping out of the skin feeling like, I know this is not where I'm supposed to be and there's something new, but where is it coming from? The guides are calling for present moment awareness. Looking at all those timelines we talked about, okay? Work, friendships, family. There's probably things in all of those timelines that you're taking along with you and integrating into something new. So just make small adjustments. Be in neutrality with what is right now and fine tune. Fine tune the areas of your life that you can fine tune right now. And that's how we create, right? The second we do that, things begin to shift energetically. We've been in this big energetic integration period. And what I was told was around this time would be the push forward. It would be the decision making, the moving, the creating, the manifesting. And I feel like we're just feeling this wonky space between the two, where we just came out of this big integration and now we know we're just ready to move forward, but it feels real overwhelming, right? With so much that we have around us that we have to do. And the reason for that is we think we have to do it in physical. So I had a client this week who is like, I just hired somebody. I'm going to do a brand new website. I'm going to get out there. I'm going to get this client list together. And her guides were saying, well, that's all physical. That's all great, but that's just, it's causing her so much stress. It's the jumping out of the skin feeling. We don't have to work that way anymore. We've been so entrenched in our physical experience of doing, not being, that we don't know how to operate in this energy right now. We do, we just don't remember. So we have to be. We have to be that person first. We can't create it by physical activity, right? That comes to complement. But if you're not in the energy of who you are and you're not fine-tuning all those timelines to bring that stuff with you, we're not going to manifest it along the way. And what this beautiful channeling that I brought in, that I talked about a moment ago about chaos, had to say was that we have helping hands. We have human helping hands that are source energy. They're us in physical form, and they come to lead us and guide us down the path. We don't leap from one to the end. We don't have to know what that last stepping stone holds. We came here for the journey of each path, of each stone. And those hands come in to complement that. And we need to recognize those hands right now, right? And that's the beauty of where we are. So I think it's a positive time. I feel like we have a lot of information and new energy to move forward. I think that we have to really ground ourselves and be present in our physical awareness and just take a breath and fine tune all of those timeline energies we've already created, because they do come along with us, but we get to choose how they want to come with us. Okay. Any questions, comments, experiences? I think it's really quiet. Well, if there's not any questions, I'll start channeling in a minute. We'll just do a little extra channeling today. But I want to say something else that's been coming up that I notice that has been coming up in my sessions and all over the place about judgment and ego being a really important aspect of what we're going through. So especially in the spiritual community these days, a lot of us have been noticing that we're bringing a lot of judgment in about various teachings, teachers, New Age versus whatever else we're plugging into, and what's right and what's wrong. And I notice on social media, this is really getting to be a very hot topic with a lot of finger pointing. And I want us to kind of take a breath on that and realize how we're bringing old imprints into our current situation. And what I've received from my guides on this is that the reason there are so many diverse spiritual teachers, teachings, and healers on the planet is because you've manifested them. We are all unique. We're all ready to receive information in whatever way is best for us. And we can't judge what anyone else's experience is. So if they're gravitating to something New Age and it's helping them, or if they're struggling through it, who are we to say that they weren't meant to connect with that material for a certain reason, right? I think that it's actually a good sign right now that we have so many people having this conversation and so many teachers teaching it differently, because it shows how so many of us have awakened on the planet and require that information. And the guides always say it really beautifully. We only manifest a teacher because we are manifesting a mirror to what we already have inside. So that mirror is showing us something about ourselves. So look at that. Look at that. Look at how much we have grown here and expanded here to have all of these people talking about all these things, have all these tools available to us for us to be able to expand and grow. I really think it's phenomenal. But if we get into the finger pointing and the judging on social media or whatever that may be, I think it's really taking away from the essence of our spirituality, which is where we're all moving to, which is a collective union. We really have to allow people to go through their own process so that we can all become the essence of that collective supportive energy for the healing of the planet. This is our physical journey in singularity that's supposed to connect back to something bigger. Right? When you fulfill yourself, when you go on this journey, whatever it may be, if it's a teaching that you manifest that's showing you something you're not to get you on the path that you are, perfect, right? Or if it's something that complements who you are so that it inspires you to do that type of work or teaching or whatever it may be in your own unique way, beautiful. That's how we're going to heal this, I think. So I just wanted to make just a quick comment about that, because it's coming up a lot on my Facebook feed, in my Facebook message, in my client sessions. And a lot of people are questioning various teachers' teachings, what's right, what's wrong. I don't believe there's a right or a wrong. I think that we're manifesting everything because it's appropriate for what we need. And when we don't need it anymore, it's not going to be here, right? If somebody doesn't need it, it's not going to be here. And we're not to say how their soul needs it. So I just want to make that quick comment. All right. You guys are a quiet group. That's okay. We'll have more time for channeling. And maybe we'll do a process today. So I'm going to take a quick sip of water. So what we'll do now is I am going to connect with whoever it may be, but I have a strong feeling it's going to be the Council of Light, because they were coming in for me today. So the Council of Light is a 12th dimensional collective. Hello, welcome. Come on in. We're just getting to channeling, so. Oh, good. You are welcome to come in. But we'll have multiple beings, collectives that will step in. They will give us a general message, and then I will take questions. So feel free to submit whatever question you want. We'll just phrase it very universally so everyone benefits. We also take donations. So we are here with the Flower of Life Center for Human Evolution. If you're not familiar, we're a volunteer organization. We are focused on furthering human consciousness in many areas. So we have many projects for our youth, for activist movements. We do an expo, a magazine. We put this message out in various creative ways. So if you can support, that would be great. It goes to help us pay for this room today. And then anything left over goes back into our programs. We always offer our courses for free. So if you're not able, that's, of course, fine. And this is vibrational material. So I often have people question why they fall asleep during my channelings. And if you do, I don't take offense. It's a transmission. And regardless of the words, you're receiving a vibration. And you're a part of it. So when you intend to be here today, your vibration connects with that, and we match. We become a collective. So you will walk away from this channeling today forever changed, different person than who you are, vibrating higher, vibrating differently. Everyone will connect with the information in the way that they are meant to, just as we are all unique, and take away exactly what they need from it. So don't be concerned if you can't keep up with the lingo or the words, or you find yourself drifting in and out. It's perfectly okay. Right? Sometimes we get vibrational processes, meditations, that sort of thing, so never really sure what the guides have in store for us. We are the Council of Light, and we are pleased to begin as a multidimensional race of various beings that come together in support of the universe. We offer our tidings and our love to you as a one being, knowing that you become one with us always when we are together in this form. We offer to you also that as human beings, as a collective consciousness, you are beginning to now access new fields of potential. You've always been a part of an open field of potential. You came with that ability, but you're now operating in a more universal source energy. And this is a beautiful end result, we will say, of what you have experienced here and created thus far. This universal field of potential is operating differently than what your planet has known before. It is in many ways coming back to its state of origination, in which many beings were assisting in both physical and non-physical form here, interacting with the human consciousness. Yet at the same time, there's a non-physical presence about the way in which this field of potential is operating that we wish to explain, and we're very pleased to do so. We want to start by helping you to understand what is currently the vibrational essence of your planetary Mother Gaia, and also the way in which your field of awareness is being affected by these new vibrations. We have spoken much about the amplification of the grid lines, the magnetic rearrangement and alignment of these grids, and we offered that the magnetic poles of your Mother Earth source being are rearranged in a way in which telepathic union between beings is more available to you. In other words, we have spoken much in the past about disclosure here on your planet and the way that you will begin to acknowledge the process of disclosure more within your own singular experience, what we see is that a force field exists now by these pole energies being magnetized for you in various states of consciousness to have these unions of your collective cosmic families, as well as amplify your DNA through a variety of interactions with beings who are here to support you. But you may ask, how is it that I am to discern? How is it that I am to feel safe in this illumination of grid line energy that is supporting an awareness of other beings, especially those that are able to access my field of potential and change it in some way vibrationally than who I have been thus far? So we want to speak to that first so that you best understand the way that consciousness operates here and the way in which the past has now changed to a new type of magnetic attraction. Now, many of you are familiar that there are beings that are not operating in service to the universe or service to humanity. They're operating in service to self. Many of you are familiar with the reptilian consciousness, and we feel that the reptilian consciousness has been one of the most prominent energies here that is taking you outside of your self-awareness, outside of your collective awareness, and has separated you from your crystalline state of DNA that offers you the collective energies that have now become a part of your vibrational essence. This consciousness in particular is one that operates structurally very differently than you do. You have been created as light source energy, and many beings step forth into what we'll call the planetary essence to assist in your creation. You are of God, you are of source, but what does that exactly mean? Let's take you into a scenario of creation for a moment. And you are most familiar with creation on your human planet. When there are two beings vibrating in a state of love, there is an interaction in which creative force energy is exchanged. There is an emotional response and a heightened vibrational nervous system response to that creative source energy and that exchange, your sexual process, in other words. And in that moment, a new being is born. That being takes on the vibrational characteristics of both beings involved in the one intention. Because when you come together in some type of a love frequency, both are actively submitting an intention. So that being is made up of that intention, and there are agreements that are made. And you may wonder, how is it that a child is born perhaps with one characteristic of a parent, but not another? Why is it that they only carry the traits of the father and not the mother? In that moment, when that interaction takes place, the intention offers a field of potential that allows an arrangement or an agreement to take place. A new soul is now coming into your planetary energy body. And in that moment, that soul is involved in order to not only manifest the characteristics genetically of what that parent is offering, but also the parents, knowing that they are here to support that soul energy, are involved in those agreements. Now, in the same way, this process takes place in human form. It comes from something else. It comes from the evolution of your species. So if we equate this to the way that creation takes place in our dimension, what we would say is that it's very similar. There are many beings that are vibrating in a singular intention in a moment of love frequency that allows the best characteristics to come forward that supports the consciousness that is being created. And this is how the human race was born. You brought in many characteristics of a variety of different races of collective consciousness that were aware that a Mother Earth being called for its own race. And you are in the divine light of that DNA. You're all operating within it in your unique soul energy. Now, That information lying within the DNA is what we really wish to focus on right now to help you understand the transition that you are currently within, as well as the way it might be affecting you from a soul perspective. This field of potential that we offer as being more universal operates in universal timeline energy. Timeline energy is not restricted to any one planetary being, star system, or collective energy. Timelines have the ability to intersect. And this is the beauty of the universe. Because as you are creators, if you can imagine that everything that you are creating intersects with all things, you can see the value of that creation. So your timeline energy isn't just planetary focused. You have perceived it to be that way. You have perceived everything that you are doing in this life to be singularly focused here on your planetary being. Though we offer a new perspective to you, and that is that the creation of your timeline energy has gone beyond the Earth aura. And there have been many beings intersecting with you, whether it be for healings, information, activation, or for the information from those timelines to be able to serve themselves and others. You have not been very aware of the way your timelines intersect universally. And the reason for this has much to do with that reptilian consciousness we spoke of recently. Now, there are vibrational quantities to every field of dimension. And this can be measured, but not in a way that human beings measure dimension. Vibrational quantity is equal to the amount of information. But when we speak to amount, it is not how much you know. It is not how many books you have read and the information that lies in those books. It has more to do with experience. So each dimension holds more experience. So as you are ascending through dimensional energies, what is taking place is that timelines are beginning to intersect more frequently. And you're able to use the information from other available timelines to assist you, not just your own. And when we speak of a collective union, this is truly what's happening here on the planet, is that through your experience, you are using the timeline information that's now becoming available to you to create new timeline experiences. But that information is coming from a more universal source. So disclosure here has more to do with the realization of beings that have always been present here or the way they've operated with you or your creation. Disclosure truly has its basis in opportunity, in support, in higher vibrational experiences, and in the rebirth of your collective consciousness. So to make it quite simple, as you have been ascending here, what has been taking place through your own will and your own intention is that you have been integrating more of your galactic or multidimensional selves. And those timelines that also hold information that your soul needs. What we believe that this will result in, first and foremost, in your own singular experience, is more realization of what we'll call anchor energy and how it is changing. And let's speak to what an anchor energy is. We alluded to this in our last message. You've created physical anchors here, and those anchors have helped you to function in a human state. One example of an anchor is time, linear time. You've created or manifested linear time as an organization of your vibration, and that's assisted you here in many ways. But those anchors, as they move into a new dimension, they have to change right along with you because they hold imprints that do not serve you any longer. And those imprints cannot match what is within. And we'll relate this to the crystalline DNA. And let's give you an analogy here, back to the creation example we brought in. You have physical DNA, and that physical DNA is your carbon-based energy. It holds your physical information, your earthbound imprints, those soul energies that you've connected to through time and space. The crystalline energy, or the crystalline strand of that same DNA, is oftentimes held back from you. And that information is non-physical. It is galactic. It holds no anchor to the physical timelines. It is beyond linear space and time. And the more you have brought these crystalline strands of DNA together with your carbon-based DNA, the more experiences you've had, whether it be with multidimensional beings or perhaps with the changing of these anchors. And we have alluded to this as well in the previous message. Skipping linear time, for example. Many of you have brought up examples of situations in which you have lost time or something in your awareness and your timelines seemed different than it did before. You can't remember it exactly the same as it used to be. So what's happening here is that you've already arrived in a new dimension. And many of the timelines you created with physical imprints are coming with you. But when they come with you, they must integrate and change, because those anchors don't exist the same anymore. They shift into something that now offers the balance of what you need to assimilate this new dimension. So let's bring this into a conversation of memory. You may have a memory that someone recalls that is different than the way you recall it. And maybe there's a certain piece of that memory that you cannot remember being a part of. Yet there's an actual physical photograph of you being in that state with those friends in that memory. What's happened here is that the linear timeline has changed. You've brought information from that timeline with you, and it's intersected into what you're creating now. But the anchor is gone. The anchor doesn't exist in the same way anymore because you're creating time differently. And you may think, well, the clock isn't changing. I still have a semblance of a linear clock and a schedule. And we realize that. But again, that is just physical. What we see happening through time is that what you're perceiving as the clock won't matter so much anymore in the amount of information, vibrational information you can assimilate in any one time. So think about the explanation of dimension. Each dimension holds more information, but it's not quantity so much as it is available timeline information. Now you find yourself in a new dimension with the same clock and the same schedule. But you will find that you begin to operate differently within that schedule or within that clock. Maybe it is that the work that is required to get done will take less time, physical time, because you're perceiving it differently through your consciousness. Or the information that you need to do that work, if you truly let go of your physical imprints, will come to you in a different way. And this is really where we want to speak to manifestation and how you are assimilating what's taking place. You are consciously aware now of all of this new timeline information coming in that is universal. You may not be aware of it in detail, but you're aware of the feeling of it. You're aware that as a being, you are now changing and operating differently. And what happens when the timeline information changes is that we really begin to connect to our desires within and wish to express them differently. So many of you may be having these experiences of wanting to operate in your fullest desire, yet you're still very physically aware of the timeline energy that you've left behind, or that's still running, in relationship to the clock. And it feels very frustrating to you because you do not see how you can change the reality from what is to what you know must be. So you begin to push through physical experience and create through density. And this is the old imprint operating within you. If you really want to manifest time differently, to be able to create something new, you have to let go of the physicality, the way the mind operates and imprints as work is equal to experience, because that's no longer valid here. If you are able to access timeline information that's equal to your DNA, that resonates in a new dimension, imagine the potential there. Not only for your own spiritual gifts, but for the way in which you need to create information. So you have a strong desire to create something new, but yet you're going into the timeline energy or the relationship to memory that you have that tells you have to work through it in the third dimension. And that's keeping you very resistant and stuck to manifesting what's already available, which is the information in these timelines. So we want to give some advice to you today about the way in which you can find peace and comfort in this transition. And we also want to speak to the way that the grid lines and the poles are going to assist you in magnetics here, and the operation of the disclosure that is coming in order to connect with your structure and amplify change and awareness on your planet. First, if you are to recognize the timelines that you've already created, even though you no longer like them, they're no longer pleasing to you, or in some way you feel that they've come to an end, whether it be your work in the world, the way in which you have a relationship that's ongoing, your physical body, whatever it may be. There is nothing stagnant about any timeline. The only stagnant energy around timelines is your perception of them. And we see that this is a big problem here. You remember physical awareness, and physical awareness is material, and material is heavy and stagnant. So we ask you to perceive into your timelines differently. See them as vibrating and shifting. See them as having the potential to overlap and cross. And see them now being lifted into a new dimension to receive the balance of what they need in the multidimensional energy. So that relationship, that job, whatever it may be, the physical body, it's only stagnant because it can no longer operate in the dimension that you're perceiving it in. So you need to lift the frequency around the timeline energies that are most frustrated to you. This may be surrender, as you call it on your human planet. We like to think of neutrality as a very beneficial energy when it comes to frustration. And this is not a very productive time on your planet to begin any physical work, unless you're energetically aligned with the unknown. Because many of you are working to receive a perceived result. And this is why manifestation hasn't typically worked on your planet. We want to discuss this for one moment. When you've undergone a manifestation process, you may have had a thought in the mind of something that you wanted to manifest concretely. Perhaps it was that very perfect relationship. And in your mind, you have thought, you have felt the emotions of that perfect relationship coming to you exactly the way that you see it. But what you must understand is that although you can manifest that in that way, if you really let go of those concrete perceptions, you can allow the universe to work for you in the way that it's always been benefiting beings beyond human. And that is through the intersection of timeline energy. In that creation of that being, those two humans created, there were many collective agreements going on there. And there was an underlying purpose for those agreements. You may think the selection of brown hair or brown eyes couldn't possibly be anything significant to a human being or their experience. And we would say, absolutely not. That everything is of purpose. Everything in your experience has meaning. But those timelines crossing and all those decisions being made were what allowed that creation to take place. And the more you stay open to those agreements and trust that they're being made for you in relationship to what you want to manifest, the less in resistance you will be. So think of it this way. All of those timeline energies, the physical body that you bring with you, the relationship, the job, they're now opportunities because they can intersect with new things. They can change in relationship to what you so desire. They can mold and shape, shift, and manifest into new aspects of your timeline reality that hold more than just Earth experience. So letting go of the frustration, operating in neutrality, trusting in the unknown and how the universe conspires for you. Continuing to create, but being energetically aligned with not only your desires, but also what most serves you and others. Because this new point of attraction that is being offered, it holds its imprint in collective energy. And collective energy is only served when you are vulnerably connected to your truth. So that relationship that you desire, it isn't just for the purpose of physical. It's assisting you in other areas as well. It's here to support the work that you do in the world. It's here to support the experience that you have in the world. It's here to fulfill you, and it's here to bring you to joy. And that in itself assists the collective because it's a frequency, you see. So dropping the physical imprints is where we are at. And that is a very uncomfortable place to be oftentimes, but you are supported in this. And as disclosure continues to take place, what you will find is that you do not need to worry about discernment. Those reptilian beings, the beings that you feel are not of service to humanity, are not operating in the dimension that you now have the opportunity to accept. When you are in a state of purpose, when you are in a vulnerable state of truth, that vibration cannot equal something other than its match. So there is no process of discernment that is needed. There is no inquiry that must be made. It is all flowing equally and divinely supporting you. We have been very pleased to bring this message forward today, and we are happy to answer questions.
Based on your perception and the current energy, when do you see the global currency reset and one-time debt forgiveness coming?
This is the Pleiadian collective stepping in, and we wish to speak about this, especially on your planet in relationship to other things. In the same way in which your monetary system is changing, many other structures on your planet are changing as well. And many of you, again, according to the previous message that came forward, have a preconceived notion about the way in which this financial issue that you have going on here as a human collective must be resolved. So you're waiting for the day. You're waiting for the day in which that will all be resolved in one moment. And again, we want to alert you to the way in which your perception is everything. When you are waiting for something that has not come and you are in judgment of the fact that it has not arrived, you are in resistance of it. And the more you are in resistance of it, the less it equals the current vibration of the collective consciousness. What we believe is that the collective consciousness is creating its own reality. So if this is true, will the financial structure around you resolve itself? Yes, it will. How will that happen? It will happen on many timelines. It is not secluded to one imprint or one preconceived notion. You see, the way in which you choose to create this is many, and the infinite potential that was spoken of in the previous message is available to resolve this as well. We want to say that your human imprint of money is what's holding the collective consciousness back from its sovereignty. And this is truly the issue that needs to be looked at. That physical imprint of money, of gaining that material back as a resolve, is really not equal to the frequency you're moving into. What money has been created as here is as a block to your own creative sovereignty. And we believe that you're moving so fast in your consciousness and that you're vibrating so quickly that you're really moving beyond where that physical manifestation has to take place. What you might find is that the equivalent of that, the balance of that judgment that you so need, can happen in other ways. In your own singular reality, maybe you can receive the balance of what you feel was lost in your experience of the financial system. Or, as a collective, what you may find is that chaos ensues in order to rearrange the financial system. And you ask for a time, a very concrete time in linear. And we will offer this. We want to approach it from two different standpoints. We would first say that it's very difficult for us to give an analogy of time because, as we have alluded in this previous message, time is created by you. You are a vibrational being. So we can evaluate the vibration in this moment and connect it with a potential that we feel would manifest in a certain amount of years or months. But that's always subject to change. The reason that's subject to change is you are vibrationally changing. So it can happen quicker than that, or it can happen differently. You have to consider that as a collective energy body, many of you have not come together into the same plane of reality. And what was spoken about in last month's message is the analogy of the shadow earth and how you are now creating an earth shadow of third dimensional structure. And that fifth dimensional energy that you are creating is becoming a different experience. If that is the case, one global experience of the monetary system most likely will not take place that is experienced by all beings similarly. In other words, shifts will take place in the monetary system and changes will come up from your creative essence that allow that change to take place over time. And perception is the key. So let us give you some examples. What we see manifesting here in response to your question is many opportunities to step outside of the concrete structure of what your financial system has offered. We'll give you banks as an example. There are many now collective beings on the planet that are functioning outside of the standard bank protocol. And there have been many supporting constructs of your reality coming up to support that effort. In other words, forms of exchange outside of what a traditional bank imprint offers. So the more that you choose to operate outside of the constructs of the third dimension, the more you will create the balance of what you need to see support your intentions. And this is happening in all areas. But when those new creative energies take over, will those on the shadow earth, those in the third dimension, be pleased with those if the banks are to fail? Most likely not. And the reason for this is they are not comfortable with any alternative form of material essence that they are not used to or not matching in their consciousness. So they will have a different experience of what's taking place. We do believe that in the next 5 years, this planet will make very dramatic shifts in its financial structure. First, we will say in a 2-year time frame, what we see taking place is that many of the restrictive efforts of your government to receive money, such as taxes, and the way in which they create structure around payment of their services are going to be demolished. The reason for this is there is a new vibrational essence of your being that is amplifying your sovereign truth. And many of us begin to see that imprint dissolve in your structure in a way that it's calling for our connection. You see, there are many forms of collective consciousness that you can create aside from your material government, and many of you are holding the intention to do that. What we see happening with this in particular, as we make this statement, is that much of what you've been giving to your government will be held in your own pockets in order to be used in some creative way. And as consciousness evolves, those creative efforts will not really need that currency. It is something that you're striving for, but you're moving so quickly outside of at the same time, because the more you are allowing an exchange of energy to take place, the less you're really going to need the balance of what you feel you deserve, you need in material form. So beyond this, we feel that your planet as a whole is moving more towards a form of exchange, and especially a segmentation of what your government as an overall energy body has restricted you to. What we see happening first is many separate forms of government, mini forms of government that are making their own decisions about the way monetary structure best benefits the beings in their community or their collectives. And that's going to fuse itself into more opportunity for those collective areas of consciousness to exchange with one another.
What is the name of the supreme God?
Well, this is the Pleiadians. There is no name officially for the supreme God. There are many. The supreme God being the one particle, the one source through which this universe sprang forth from. It is an evolutionary process that God has become one with you and you have become one with God. So if we were to name God, we would have to name all of you. If we were to name God, we would have to name everything that exists in this universe and upon this planet, because it is all a fragmented energy that is connected to that God source.
Who built the moon?
This is the council coming in. We wish to discuss the moon in a way in which might be different than you have experienced here before on this planet. What we find is that fragmented information often comes to the surface as your DNA allows it, but it does not connect in the way that it is available to you to fully understand the basis of what truly this energy is made of. We want to say first that the moon was created. It was not built. And we know that many of you have a very false predetermination that the moon is a frequency that is man-made. What we will say is that there are many forms of collective consciousness on your planet that have taken advantage of the fact that that vibrational energy can be manipulated. So the moon, the essence of the moon, started as a vibrational source energy of light, very similar to other planets and stars. It held within it the capacity to create and to exchange information, and it did. There were many life forms, and continue to be, many life forms that have existed on the moon energy. And those are multidimensional beings that are hybridized in order to both serve the collective frequency of the human planet as well as beyond. And what we have found is that there are some beings on your planet, we'll especially focus in on the reptilian consciousness, that have been able to manipulate the vibrational essence of the moon within your consciousness, meaning that it can change the way in which the moon directly influences you and the way you influence it, because all planetary energies and beings have multiple influence. In itself, in this moment, we would consider the moon to be a vibrational being. But just as you are a vibrational being that can be manipulated by consciousness, that moon energy can be manipulated also by consciousness. And it is always vibrationally changing. So the moon that you see in your Earth sky isn't always in the exact location of what you perceive as your moon energy. There is a reflection of the moon that is sourced in order for you to be able to hold on to this, what we'll call perceived Earth anchor for your own experience, for the betterment of your own experience. So the moon in itself as a vibrational planetary energy is sometimes moving outside of the range of what your Earth sky notices. For example, there are times in which you see the moon as a full energy, and that full energy is present. It is connected to your Earth, and it's vibrationally attuned to what you are experiencing. And there are times in which that moon energy is not able to be visioned by your Earth, yet a moon still appears in your Earth sky. That is because there are some that are taking advantage of that energy to manipulate your consciousness. Think of it this way. If there was something that aligned with your structure that would cause chaos, and let's take you to your vibrational record to explain this. You have a vibrational record. You came here with a birth date, and the planets align around that birth date in order for you to have experience, karmic experience and otherwise. And perhaps the planet Jupiter is one that is most meant to connect with you in a certain time in order to offer a vibrational response. And someone were to use the essence of that Jupiter energy in its false state in order to force that response. This is what's happening here with the moon. So what you see of the moon in your Earth sky is actually only about a half of its real essence. And the other half is being projected to you through beings on your planet who have been manipulated in their reptilian DNA to evoke some type of human experience. And much of the consciousness or the evolution of that moon energy has been hidden from you. There are times in which that moon energy is not able to be seen by your planetary being for long periods of duration. You would think, for example, if the sun did not shine upon the Earth for many months, it would dramatically affect your human consciousness. Well, the moon is truly not meant to be connected to your earthbound planet for every physical day of your linear year. And there are times when you cannot see it, but it's very short-lived. In reality, there are months of linear time that go by where that moon is meant to be outside of the auric field or conscious awareness of your planetary being. But there are collective beings on your planet that are manipulating you to believe that the moon exists in all of its fullness throughout those 365 days of your linear calendar year. Now, the moon energy that they are projecting is having a very strong emotional frequency. And this is how the reptilian consciousness takes you outside of your 12-strand DNA. They manipulate your emotional body because they know that the emotional body is a very valuable tool for the human consciousness. The emotional body allows you to create in response to your perception. So if that emotional body is in a heightened state of awareness, there is much creation that can take place. And if that heightened state of awareness is in singularity, what this reptilian consciousness is able to do is create through you the reality that they need in order to preserve their own race. And we believe this is part of what's taking place here. What we see happening with this, we want to say over time, is that you're coming into a cosmic alignment in the galactic universe by which many of these types of manipulations will be revealed. Think of some of the portal energies that have recently been revealed to you on the planet, such as Antarctica, we will say. The reason for this is that timeline energy is moving differently. You find yourself in a different galactic position within the universe. And so history must come up. Truth must come up. And it becomes revealed. Well, we believe that much of what's going on with the moon will also be revealed because of this new energy that you are assimilating in the galactic universe. and history will come up, and you will be able to better understand the way that that moon energy, the essence of that being, has been manipulated. There is a real moon, and that moon is always vibrationally aligning itself with other planetary energies in response to its record. There are beings that exist on that moon energy, and there are human beings within your governments and political bodies that know there are beings that exist on that moon energy. But it is not always present in your earth sky in the way that you see it. It is sometimes hidden from you, and it is meant to be, because it is not always needed within your consciousness.
If one is passionate about freedom and the political process, but also wanting to grow in this consciousness, how does one reconcile that and be in the physical reality without totally having a breakdown?
This is the Pleiadian collective, and we offer to you that we understand the difficult energies that you are assimilating. And when you speak to freedom, this is our most important message to you. It is only perceived that you are not free. And when we say you are, this is the point we truly want to make. When we speak of sovereignty, it is not something that is given to you. It is not something that is outside of you. It is a frequency you are made up of. So in any situation, you can tap into the frequency of sovereignty. It is just that you use the construct of the mind and the imprints that have taken you outside of your 12-strand DNA and this frequency of sovereignty that hold you back from the realization of it. So regardless of what's taking place on the planet, regardless of the structures that exist, you, in this moment, are able to embellish your sovereign frequency to operate however you so choose. The frustration that you feel is by looking outside and seeing the stagnant material experience that you believe is your reality. But it truly is not. Your reality is created by you. And let's speak for a minute to your collective reality, because we feel as if this question is directed towards what's taking place on the planet. And what we want to say is that in the same way we've brought in the examples of the conspiring of collective consciousness to manifest, you are undergoing much change here. And energies are offering themselves new opportunities. Many of you are awakening on the planet to truly what's going wrong and what's been created here that is not in your highest good. But in awakening to it, you are accepting it as your reality. And what we know from our own experience and what we have evolved through is that in a collective state, reality is always offering a unique perspective to any being that connects to it. So in other words, none of you are having the same collective experience as another. And we know that you will challenge us on this, because you may say, well, we are together and we have the same presidents, we have the same governments, we have the same rules that we must follow. Yes, you do, because your timelines have crossed in a quantum reality that is showing you exactly the same essence of truth, yet at the same time, you're all perceiving it differently. So what we would say to you is that your perception is always the key. You can tune into reality as stagnant. You can tune into something that holds you back, or you can tune into the frequency of sovereignty that you are and choose to operate in it differently. And we see that many on your planet already are. The reason that many of these constructs that so cause you difficulty are breaking down or due to break down is that there are so many operating outside of them in this moment. There are many, for example, that are choosing not to operate within a governmental experience. Their governmental experience is their own soul. They're self-governed. And they're creating things equal to that self-governing. And because of that, the consciousness of the planet is shifted to what we'll call the chaos you see around you, which is truly the reorganization of what is yet to come. So we believe you are on the right path. We believe there is much good that is taking place here. That the more you see into and feel into the frequency of your own sovereignty and operate in it in any situation, the more it will serve you. Because you are a quantumly entangled piece of what's happening here in the collective. But when you shift it for yourself, you shift it for others.
Is the earth round or flat, and is the flat earth theory true?
This is the council stepping in. What we wish to say is that the earth is neither round nor flat. And again, we will equate this back to much of what we have been talking about here. You have a material expectation of the way in which energy must be formed. And you see in a dimensional energy that is materially based. You see planets as round or flat, for example, and you see yourselves in a certain material essence or shape. But if any of you have gone into altered states of consciousness, for example, and you have been able to vision the room that you are in from that altered state of consciousness, what you begin to see is that the chair that you are sitting on, the table that sits in front of you, isn't really square. It isn't really wood. It is made up of vibrational energy. And that vibrational energy is in movement. So if vibrational energy is always moving, it can't always be the same in any moment. And you perceive the earth as round in your galactic universe because what you are seeing through your consciousness is the assembly of a sacred geometric pattern. So sacred geometry exists here. Now, the flat earth concept is something we want to speak to as well. The flat earth in itself is an understanding of the way in which time and space operate. You're familiar with linear time and space, and if you think of your linear life as a time-space reality, you are walking through years as they go from 1 to perhaps 100. And they are consecutive and they form a very straight pattern of information. Well, the earth in itself holds a similar type of record. And that energy can be interpreted as what you may call flat. In other words, it can manifest as a linear expression of information. And that is why people can see both realities of the way the earth manifests. It just depends on whatever perception they're using. Are they looking at the sacred geometric union or pattern of all symbiotic organisms coming together as a one, presenting a round amount of information, or we'll say a round assembly of information? Or are they perceiving a more record-based linear perception of time as material? So we believe you're both right. There is no one way that the earth is. The earth is vibrational energy. She's always morphing, changing, shape-shifting, and adjusting to what she's expanding to. And in moments of time when you are visioning her as one or the other, it is the perception that you are using as material essence of vibrational energy to make a conclusion.
Is it possible to know the origin of Source? I've heard that Source thought itself into existence. Can you elaborate?
Source energy is universal light. And let's speak to what universal light is first, and then we can quantify source. Because in a human perceptive mind, it is difficult to actually quantify source. When you think of material essence, or you think of things as having a fragmented energy coming together as one, you want to put source into some type of conceptual arrangement. And it's very difficult to put source energy into that conceptual arrangement. Light in itself came together in a recognition of its own essence. Source energy as the universe was fragmented throughout what we'll call space and time. But there was one particle. There was one particle of light that began to recognize that all other particles of light had a similar essence of its being. And in that moment, in that one recognition, There was a spark of energy that connected all other particles to it. And in that moment, God's source essence was formed, and a cooperative arrangement of light began to structure into what is known as universal source energy cooperative. And when all of these fragmented energies of light decided to cooperate together and held a one intention, expression was born. Creation began. And many think of the Big Bang, the essence of the Big Bang, and we want to bring that into this conversation. When that particle of light recognized itself as the same as all others, and a collective union was born, there was spontaneous creation that took place on the part of the intention of light. And in that moment, there was, beyond the Big Bang, there was the essence of a being coming together in its power, meaning that it understood, light understood, that it could be more than itself, that it could lend itself to other things. And as it did so, it realized the other things fed back its source light, and it was expanding itself through this creation. And that is God. That is the beginning of God. That light is within you, and this is why we always refer to crystalline light as source energy. That's God. You are made up of it. And again, if you are to look at the analogy of even your physical being and try to interpret its roundness, its flatness, its curved, its square, you would be seeing light. You would be seeing light as it reflects off itself and connects to all things, taking shape and form through its own perception, its consciousness. And that is how consciousness was born.
If each of us, as a being, is part of Source, again focusing energy on a specific point, then the number of beings is unlimited. So who really is creating the population of the Earth? Are we, or is Source? And then who will decide when enough is enough?
What is the essence of this question is that you are separating yourself from Source. You are asking who is doing the creating. Is it the human? Is it me? Or is it Source? Yet you are one and the same. So there will always be creation. And what we believe is that this question is speaking to the intention of perhaps overpopulation. And that could never take place here. The issue with overpopulation or creating too many humans in a small space is a different issue than creation altogether. Creation is. So as light source consciousness came into being a human form, it continued its expansive journey through that human perception. Think of this. If light is source consciousness, and it is present in all things, and it is so excited that in all things it sees and expands itself, why would creation ever stop? It isn't just about humans. It is about the blades of grass. It is about the fish. It is about the water. It is about the air and the trees. It is in all things. So there will never be enough creation from the standpoint of source energy, because in that moment of self-realization, the excitement of what could be was so all-encompassing that it continues to this day. And new universes are being born through the creation of everything and everyone. But when you speak to when will it be enough, we want to put that into our framework of your perception. And you're making this very material and very human and very specific to your planet, and we do understand the concern. You see, what's happened here with creation is that it lost its original intent. And Many are creating outside of what a source energy intention would hold. So when you think about all of the human beings who are creating or perhaps having children, if that's the way you wish to perceive this as a population, and you look again at intention, and we go back to the original explanation of the way in which beings place a collective intention to spontaneously create another being. We ask, how many of you are operating in that intention in the way it was so given to you? And this is the problem that we see, that we think you are speaking to, is that human beings have lost the basis of source energy. They have lost their connection to source in the way that they were meant to create. So they're creating outside of that from societal expectation. They're creating outside of it as something that will be fulfilling to them. They're creating outside of it because it is imprinted in them to do so from past, present, or future. And this is something that you are healing. But creation will always continue. In its purest form of light, it was always meant to be.
Is meditation the only way to naturally heal yourself?
We want to separate the concept of healing and meditation for a moment in order to properly answer this question. Because when you are healing yourself, meditation is a tool, but it is not the action. It is not the result of meditation that you heal. Let's bring this into present day vibration and what's available to you in this moment to help you understand better healing from the vantage point of the human consciousness and where it's become. When you're in a state of full awareness of source consciousness, healing comes as a creative expression. So when there's something going on within the physical body, let's say a disease, for example, and you wish to heal that disease, oftentimes you are becoming very physically attached to a material timeline. And you are trying to work within the material essence of that manifestation to create a solution. But although that's worked for you at some time in your linear past, as you move into this new dimensional reality that you are birthing, you must consider that your entire physical being is a consciousness. It becomes quite easy to heal when you are in complete alignment and communication with your own consciousness. Not the space of the disease, not the affected material manifestation and everything it's causing in your life, but your state of complete consciousness. Meditation is a tool to assist that. So in order to assist the healing process, we believe meditation is a valuable tool because the more you let go of your singular perception and your outer world and the way that you've been taught to look at the physical body and go into states of altered consciousness that interpret and feel into the space of your being, the more you're activating that energy. And that's truly where healing can take place. Meditation is a conversation with your consciousness. It takes you outside of your physical material and density and allows you to perceive into what we have been talking about here, which is basically your timeline energy in relationship to all things that are matching your DNA. So that is where information lies that isn't within your physical perception. Now, you may not recognize it while you are in meditative state, and this is the advantage to this process, is that if you truly meditate just for the purpose of activating your consciousness, what you may find is that outside of those states of meditation, you will find it easier to heal because you will either walk into the answer will be presented to you, or you will add or activate something in your life that complements what you need in order to have the physical healing take place. Many of you are forcing that through the mind. Or You are trying to remove essence of consciousness or information that's disorganized or disharmonious. And although this has worked for you in the past, many healers are now rearranging their experience to be able to activate information in the field, because that's where we feel the most benefit comes from, is through meditation and activation of the timeline information that already exists in the field of potential. It gives you the awareness to be able to operate in the full consciousness of healing.
I've heard that Source pulled a missing Malaysian airplane out of the sky to prevent a war. What do the councils want to say about this?
When these, this is the council, when these experiences take place, what is happening is twofold. First, we would say that because your consciousness is shifting, there are physical activities going on that are going to be interrupted through that timeline analogy we brought in previously. Remember how we've talked about the anchors and how time in a linear perception is now changing, and you will be perceiving timeline experience differently. What happens oftentimes is that when there's an activity that is potentially going to harm the human consciousness, and you're operating in this higher state of vibration, you have a collective intention going on that resolves energetically any issue that doesn't match your collective consciousness. So as humans, you were the ones that caused that event to take place. Now we want to speak to this from the opposite standpoint. And we want to say that we've also brought in the message of how you are more universally connected and how you are connecting with your global families, your collective forms of galactic consciousness, and how they are assisting you. Your team energy has now multiplied, in other words. So when you offer an intention to be in a state of consciousness separate of war or different of what you have created, there can be support that comes in from your galactic helpers, we will call them, to assist. So when you speak of source energy being the catalyst for this change in timeline, we would say that source energy was made up of many things. It was made up of your human intention and your communication beyond that human intention into the universal plane of reality for support. All things calling together that support in order to change a linear timeline. And that is what happened.
Some believe that our soul has two parts, and when we find the other part, our work here is so much more powerful. Is that true? Or is it that we can choose many soulmates to be with, and not that there is another part of our soul waiting to reconnect?
Well, we believe you are asking two questions here, and we want to address both sides of this, whether it be the soul partner or perhaps the twin flame that is here to connect you as a whole, or whether it be the true essence of your soul and what is lost. So we want to address both. We want to say that your soul energy is fragmented beyond just two essences of being, that your soul energy is fragmented beyond your human perception of experience. You are having a soul experience in many bodies, in many non-physical energies, in many collective energies, as plant, as animal, as being, as planet. It goes on and on. So your soul is fragmented, but it isn't something that is able to cohesively come together in its fullness, although you're interpreting and accepting more of that information. What we believe you're asking truly is what we would perceive as the higher self and the soul connection. We see the higher self as a construct of the soul energy. When it is able to be fully integrated in your personal experience, it provides the mirror to the soul that is needed to really create from the essence of your record. Because the higher self takes in all of that information from those other timelines that your soul is fragmented on, and it can filter it in ways that it is applicable and able to be used. And it stays in neutrality with the information of your present day experience and creates an awareness to allow you to operate in that neutrality and create from that standpoint. Now, the other side of this question we interpret as perhaps is there another soul body, another human that you're meant to connect with that is your twin or the essence of what is not present within you to balance what you need to create. And we would say there are many. Some of you have made agreements that there are very significant soul beings you're meant to cross with in this life to create from that vibrational record. And they come in as the essence of the higher self piece oftentimes. They bring the higher self with them. They bring the frequency of your higher self with them. They're almost a holographic mirror to what that higher self knows. And they offer it in a physical earth being. But some of you have made agreements with many soul partners in this life. And those soul partners are bringing in fragmented pieces of your soul energy through a higher self perception as well, or perspective as well. So it is both. But in conclusion to this question, we want to say that you are never not whole and complete in this one perceptive energy. Regardless of how your soul is fragmented, the divine source energy that you carry within is made of all things. And there is no one being outside of you, no perception of the higher self you could bring in that could ever be the completion of that. You own everything within that you need in order to be the fullness of source energy at any moment. And those things all come in to complement the soul being that you are.
Can you please help us so that we can feel absolute love?
I get Mary Magdalene stepping in. The essence of love is not a feeling. Very similarly to what we've spoken of today in this message as sovereignty. Love is a frequency. Love is what you are. You have been taken outside of your full 12-strand DNA, your Christed source energy, and your consciousness to perceive that love must come from outside. We would exchange the word love for fulfillment, because when you are experiencing a frequency of love, when you are embodied in that love essence, you are going to have fulfillment in your life. Now, love as a frequency is something that human beings can experience in any moment. And there are many tools to be able to do this. But you have to begin to focus inward first in order to allow that love to flow through you, as opposed to looking outside. Various states of consciousness, of course, in meditation will assist the way in which you can experience the frequency of love. Letting go of judgments outside of yourself, and in the moment feeling the fullness of who you are, appreciating the uniqueness of who you are, is the essence of love. The frequency of love was truly meant to be experienced by you in your uniqueness. And what's happened to you here as a human consciousness is that you've been taught your uniqueness is wrong or it is bad. So when you begin to embrace the uniqueness within you, regardless of where you are in any moment, that frequency of love can be achieved. But the feeling that you want is not necessarily love. It is attracting the balance of what you are and offers in you complete fulfillment. Because when you are experiencing love in anything, in any body, it is you in another form. You bring that love to you. When there is another being that is in love with you, it is because the love frequency that you own is now reflecting back at you through itself. So our best advice to you is to go within and embrace your inner truth, your uniqueness, letting go of judgment outside, letting go of anything that needs to fulfill you outside, because it will come in its appropriate time and match the frequency that is already within when you begin to accept it.
Thank you.
Okay. I hope everyone enjoyed and got their questions answered. Anything I can answer for you about channeling or the experience? Okay, great. Well, thank you all for coming. If you wish to stay, Ethan has a great session after. He does an incredible energy transfer. If you haven't been a part of that before, I highly advise you to stay. We'll take a little break so everyone can use the restroom. And thank you again. I hope to see you next time. Thank you.